matter how I feel, how you feel is better, no matter what I say.
Hello everybody, my name is Sierra Sullivan, and this is going to be the Homeless Period podcast. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what homeless women have to deal with while they're on their periods, as well as the luxury tax on tampons and pads. No woman actively looks forward to getting her period. Even after decades of menstruating, it can still be a painful and expensive hassle every month that leaves you feeling completely flattened. But if you're a woman living on the streets, having a period isn't just a hassle. It's a nightmare. Because if you can't muddle together enough money for food or shelter, it's unlikely you'll be able to afford sanitary towels or tampons. The options for menstruating homeless women can be incredibly limited. It's often possible to access tampons and towels at homeless shelters. But what do you do if there's no beds available? Given there's no standard practice of giving out supplies as sexual health clinics, unlike condoms per se, in that it isn't possible to be prescribed sanitary wear at a doctor's surgery as a woman in need, there are very few services you can turn to. Many news companies such as BuzzFeed and Cosmo have been reporting on homeless women and their struggles during their periods. Despite this fact, many people still don't think to include a box of pads or tampons when donating to their local shelter. These products remain, as the Los Angeles Times recently reported, among the most requested items at food pantries and homeless shelters. And yet, according to a Harris poll that You by Kotex commissioned for the donation drive, a mere 6% of respondents had ever donated period products to a homeless shelter, 3 times as many as they had donated other toiletries. Even if homeless women wanted to buy their own pads or tampons, they would have to deal with the luxury tax. Sanitary ware in the U.S. is classified as a luxury and non-essential item and is taxed at 5%. Precisely what could be considered luxurious about the monthly blood flow that, as women, we really don't have any control over? And it's a really a question I would love an answer to. But without the means to purchase these simple luxuries, homeless women are constantly forced to go without. Now, you may be thinking that the tax is really insignificant. However, for women living below the poverty line or just financially getting by, the tax becomes burdensome, especially for families and households with multiple women. The high cost of feminine hygiene products can force some people to choose between a basic sanitary need and a meal. According to state law, they're still technically not necessities. In common usage, everyday items deemed as essential, such as food, hygiene products, and certain sterile medical products, are considered necessities. So, in states that have sales tax, many of these items are not taxed, but tampons and pads still are. Women and people who menstruate know that these products allow them to perform day-to-day tasks while on their period. Most women have experienced what it's like to not be prepared while on their periods. Toilet paper is not an alternative. Clothes are also not an alternative. And towels, most importantly, are not an alternative. To tax tampons, pads, and menstrual cups is to tell women and people with periods that a natural biological function is something that they should be ashamed of. Menstruation is something that naturally occurs in the human body, and people should have the right to the products they need to deal with this bodily function without being financially penalized. Already, feminine hygiene products are not cheap, and the sales tax adds to the burden. The tax on pads and tampons is a tax on being a woman, plain and simple. It's sexism in the way that our state runs. Already, more women live under the poverty line than men, and the sales tax on menstrual products is an unnecessary obstacle for people seeking healthcare products that they need. Plus, it's just plain unfair. Luckily, for struggling people who menstruate, there are 2 large companies trying to help. There's the Homeless Period, and then there is Helping Women Period. Both companies do something to help, but they both are very different. Helping Women Period is more of a donation system, whereas the Homeless Period is more focused on getting rid of the luxury tax. Both of them are doing something very great that can really help women who are homeless, but what both companies want accomplished cannot be without the help of others. So if you're at least sort of interested in this, I would go check out both of their websites. Now back onto the subject at hand. I really feel like I need to talk about some of the side effects of not wearing a sanitary product. Some of them are not so severe and can easily be fixed, but some of them not so much. Now back onto the toxic shock syndrome. It can be very severe and can even lead to death. Now I'm going to be honest, Toxic shock syndrome is very unlikely and pretty rare, but when you get this syndrome, it's very difficult to get rid of, and not to mention, most of the time, homeless women can't even go to a doctor. At times, to prevent these free bleeding issues, women will use things such as cloths or toilet paper or anything that they can find, pretty much. But that's even worse for you. Those products, you don't know where they've been, you don't know what germs they have on them, and you're even more likely to get TSS from that. I could honestly go on forever about this issue. Women do not need to feel like this is something that is unnecessary and that they can control, because we cannot. Women cannot control their periods. We cannot hold it. We cannot just pretend like it isn't happening, because it is. It is something that happens to us monthly. The simplest task you can do to help is just to donate. It doesn't take that much cash for somebody who isn't struggling financially to get some pads and donate it to a local shelter. That's all I have to talk about today. If you want to know more about this topic that I talked about today, you can go to my website at homelessperiod.weebly.com. That's homelessperiod.weebly.com. Alrighty, thank you guys for listening in. Bye!